think I always made the comment that once a miller, always a miller.
Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! Good heavens, he's done it again! Another promotion for the big man.
I've got 12 bottles of champagne in my office and we're going to drink them all night.
Do me a favour, drop me off in Rotherham.
Hello and welcome back to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast, and for the final time in 2024, we have a game to talk about. Much like many of the games in 2024, it wasn't good. And it ended up with us not winning the game, but at least we didn't lose it. That's something, I suppose. Is it? Well, I suppose we'll talk about it. Mick is with us. How are we doing, Mick?
I'm all good, mate. All good. Thank you very much.
Excellent news. And Tom's back as well. Tom, you had a lovely day on your birthday watching that game yesterday. Other than that, how was your birthday?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Went out for after that ended, I had a nice time. So yeah, no, it was good. And you know what, the game was enjoyable, so it wasn't the worst way to spend it. I've had worse.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Yes, we have people with us, YouTube users with us, as is Richard, who says evening all, nothing changed. Stockport a miles better team. Martin Holland says, good evening, everybody. Let's hope 2025 is a better year. It would struggle to get worse, to be honest with you. When we cover that. Steve, Noel Jordan, Steve Grundy, Alex Mystery, Nick Cammack, and Sarah Ogden are with us. Palmer says, evening all. I see Mick's Facebook popularity is off the charts. No, I haven't seen this.
No, I haven't. Have I been upsetting some 12-year-old again?
Probably.
Behind his keyboard.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Yes, the Fishman said Dave Lawton with us. Paula Rose is with us this evening. All weather looks bad for Wednesday, so ready to make an excuse for the Chuckle Brothers. We'll go on to that. Yes, weather's going to be here on Wednesday. Let's towards the end of the show. We're going to ask for your 2024 Rotherham United highlights. I'm saying that now, so you've got time to think. So we will do that later on in the show. But here's your kind of warning, half an hour warning that we want your highlights of the year, football-wise. If you can. I don't normally have to, prepare people for that question when we get to this time of year, but we need to prepare for this one. So you need some thinking time on that one. Right, Stockport County left New York Stadium with a solitary point. Mick, was it a fair result? Start with that.
Oh, I don't know, would it? I don't know. It depends. I guess it depends which angle you look at it from. I think probably it was.
Okay.
I think probably it was a fair result in the sense that, other than the goal, they really offered not a great deal, did they? And they were very frail defensively. They were, and again, this is not a criticism of Stockport at all. And I don't want anybody to think that it is, but they were a bang average, middle of the table League One side. Is the performance that they put in yesterday. Which is a bit worrying because we didn't lay a glove on them, as is usual. But I don't think they did enough necessarily to win the game. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh on them there, but I think it was arguably a fair result from what was a very, very poor game. So that's my summing up of it.
Okay, fair enough. Tom, are you the same? Do you think a draw is a fair result? I thought if I was Stockport fan, I'd be very unhappy. We'll talk about the decisions in a minute, but if I'm a Stockport fan, I'm coming out again and say that's 2 points dropped.
Yeah, and decisions aside, I think you'd say the same thing. I think decisions with it, it's even more of probably a snatch and grab from us in a lot of ways. Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean, Mick. I mean, you look at them and you think, they'd be a good League One side, but wouldn't be pushing playoffs, past 2-3 seasons when last time we were there. But now it's just a case of they look too good for us. Patterns of play. Norwood's never had as much space and time in his life. It's just it's easy for them to look good when you give them time and space to look good, basically. So yeah, they'd be. I mean, I would be completely disappointed if roles were reversed. And that's beside the decisions. I think decisions come into it, and you're looking even more likely like it was like I said, like a snatch and grab.
You're from around that area, Tom. Have you spoken to any Stockport friends? What have they kind of said? Do you have anything on that?
Yeah, well, I'm from Stockport, live here. Well, my parents live here, I should say. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them watched it on Sky because most of them are, as you'd expect, United or City fans. But those who did watch it, again, it's just, I think for them it's a case of Louis Barry's is the danger man, and as you know, as showed he was. I mean, the rest of the team I thought were decent League One players, but I think they had that extra bit of quality in Louis Barry, and unfortunately for them, won't do anymore. But you know, I wish him the best. There was no ill feelings towards that game. It was good. It was I said enjoyable before. I want to change it to entertaining. I think it was an entertaining watch, and I think that was purely down to the referee, in my honest opinion. It was very interesting and entertaining to watch and see what bizarre things went on in his mind. But yeah, I think a lot of Stockport fans I know consider that 2 points dropped.
Yeah, they're a player or two away from being a top team. If they had a goal-scoring striker who could put away those chances we gifted to them, they would be much closer to that top two. Obviously, Louis Barry leaving them is going to be a massive problem because you don't replace that kind of player at this level. So that's a problem for him. But we'll probably talk about him some more. But Noel Jones can't wait for the Mick ref rant. There will be one. If you want double, there was one on the instant reaction yesterday. So what are you doing tonight?
Yeah,
a good one there. I know. Steve says Stockport are a decent League One side. They're well coached and understand their jobs. What's that? Players understanding jobs. Is that a thing? You're allowed to do that? Is that? It doesn't seem fair, does it?
No, you can coach him as well.
Apparently so.
We pass and move. Ooh. About it, really.
Brawley Wolfer says, I'm getting fed up of this. Minimum of any Rotherham United team is to work hard and play for the badge. This is all-round mess up. Players and the people in the club are just picking up wages. No unity in Rotherham United hasn't been for a while. I'm worried, and something needs to change ASAP. I think this is summed up by the attendance yesterday, Mick. They should stop announcing the attendance, to be honest with you.
It's embarrassing.
Because when it gets announced and the entire stadium laughs, then there's no point doing it anymore. Officially, it was 10,000 people there, and I said this against Lincoln a month ago, and I'll say it again. I've never seen New York Stadium that empty in the home end for a league game. Fans are voting with their feet, and it's visibly empty. And for a Christmas game as well, this festive periods are always very well attended, literally always. And if there were 6,000 Rotherham fans there, I would be a little bit surprised, to be honest with you. That was a very, very low attendance report. It was a low attendance.
It was dreadful attendance, and you get what you deserve in that respect. The way that we're playing, the performances that have been put on the pitch, the nonsense that's coming out of the club, in terms of the information that comes out, which is negligible, to be honest. It's just a massive pile of cliches from the manager every time he has an interview. So everything that's sort of public facing about the club at the moment is on a downer, and people are fed up of it all. So I'm not surprised. I'm not in the least little bit surprised. This is one of the things, you with it, and again, this is not a criticism of anybody. A football club does well, you obviously get more people through the door. You still get the hardcore supporters who will go, come rain, shine, defeat or whatever. You've got that sort of hardcore of 2,000 or 3,000 supporters who will go every game no matter what, as the Don Valley years showed. But as soon as the performances and the results start to take a turn like they have done over the past year or two, a lot of the supporters that came during the good times will drop off, and that's football. That's how it is, and that's what's happening. And it's very difficult to get them back. As a football club, we worked for years and years to really sort of to fill that stadium essentially, and we're doing it week in, week out. And Evans, to his credit, was the person who started that realistically. Unfortunately, it looks like he's been the person that's ending it as well, which I'm sure there's some irony in that, and your football symmetry is there as well. But yeah, the attendances are appalling, and the people that are there are very, very quiet, and I understand that. You know, it's difficult when that ball hit the back of the net yesterday. I had to think about, I need to stand up and cheer here. You know, I had to think about it. It wasn't just that natural reaction of yes, we scored. And there have been times this season when I can't even be bothered to get out of my seat when we score. And it's just that apathy that's creeping across. It's not creeping. It's all over the place now. And in loads and loads of supporters, and it's sad. It's really, really sad. And what's even more sad is that the club seem to be just doing the manly thing and burying their head in the sand, aren't they? And hoping it all goes away. And it's not going to go away, I don't think. The only way it's going to go away is if Evans turns this around. I just don't see how, because he's made no effort. It appears he's made no effort to turn it around in the time in the 22 games that we've had so far. So we'll see. We'll see how this season continues. But I think the actual attendances will get lower and lower. Obviously, the announced attendances will remain about the same.
Yeah. So the club tweeted out today again for a New Year's Day game, and again, these are very, very well attended games. Lincoln City being a game that is very, very well attended because it's generally a very good away day. We've sold 779 tickets as of midday. But as of 11 o'clock this morning, the club tweeted that out. That's mad, Tom. But that makes sense. You can't. We're not sitting here criticising fans. I would never criticise fans for choosing not to go to a game. I understand why fans are not going to games, and it almost feels like the people that are turning up are just doing so out of responsibility because they feel like they should just turn up. It's not. Nobody's doing. I bet nobody on New Year's Day is going, I can't wait to go to Lincoln. They're going, all right, let's just go Lincoln. And that's the difference where we are.
Yeah. No, definitely. And going down this year was, it was a case of we are going to come straight back up, and that was what everyone thought. And coming straight back up means winning these away games and having that bit of community spirit back and having that fan togetherness back. And it's just not materialized at all. In fact, it's got worse, arguably, than it was under Taylor. Maybe not under Richardson, but definitely under Taylor. It's gotten a lot worse since then. And I don't know what you do to revive it other than start winning games. And we've won one away game in 2 years. So anyone who still goes to away games, even if we were winning every home game, still, if you were going to an away game, you're not expecting to win because there's just that absolute mentality and psychological feeling of we're not going to win. What's the point? Now you can watch almost every single game at home. Why the hell would you even go? I mean, there's literally no reason. It's not like you're going for the atmosphere because you know that the rest of the fans aren't going and you're not even selling out your allocation. So what's the point in you going? There's no point going because you can watch it on TV. And also, you can get to spend more time with family, friends, whatever it may be. It doesn't, it's a shame. And I thought I'd have a lot of away days this year. And home games this year, which I would have loved to have gone to and got right behind the team, but it's just materialized that when Sky Sports Plus is doing every second game on Sky, what's the point in me spending hard-earned money to go and watch them when I don't get an output that I enjoy? May as well sit at home and contemplate watching it from the comfort of my living room. So we'll have to see what happens in January with who he buys, if the form turns around. But honestly, I can see it being another season of let's get it over with again, which is just not what anyone wanted, really.
Yeah. Yeah, James Woodland. For the first time in 18 years of having a season, I genuinely had to think about whether or not I wanted to cut my losses or grin and smile and watch the lacklustre performance that was being produced. In 18 years, that includes going to Don Valley. So James is much like most of us who had a season ticket in Don Valley. We still all went to Don Valley. We still turned up every week at that absolute dive of the stadium with zero atmosphere. And now people are kind of considering whether right now is, you know what I mean? That just tells you everything you need to know. I don't know if it's true. I saw some people on social media, Evans, having a pop at one of the fans yesterday. That's never a good sign. The chairman's obviously not in the country. Well, we assume we think the chairman's not in the country, which is he's a millionaire. He's entitled to do whatever he wants with his money. But I thought it was meant to be as part of the day-to-day running of the football club. Which
I missed that. Who was having a go at the fans?
Evans. Yeah, allegedly had a pop at one of the fans that was around him. That's what I've seen from on the socials. Yeah,
yeah. We'll keep saying allegedly, but
allegedly.
Yeah, we'll keep,
yeah, we will definitely come back to this. We'll talk about the game a little bit first, though. Up until when we scored, Mick, it was really, really, really bad, the performance yesterday. Louis Barry could have had a couple, and a couple of players could have had something as well. The goal itself is an excellent goal. The finish itself is a really, really good goal. But there's question marks out if it could have been stopped a little bit earlier. But Tom's gone. Tom's done.
Spared the money's had enough. Can't even bother to stay in here.
I'm willing to say if Louis Barry played for us and scored that, we'd be saying it's a stunner. So I'm kind of willing to say that. But in terms of the overall performance, I was worried until Tom's back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Until we scored, Mick, I was genuinely concerned this was going to be a really embarrassing game, 3-4-0. They look comfortable. They look confident. They look like they did have that edge for that first part of the game. Louis Barry was kind of pulling the strings a little bit. And they fully deserved the goal when they got it.
Yeah, they did. And again, I don't mean this. I'm not being a smarty aleck here. I'm assuming Louis Barry was there number 20 because it was all right. It was nothing. It was not the player that I were expecting. It didn't stand out to me or head and shoulders above anybody. He took the goal well, but there's
also that run before the goal, didn't he?
He should have never even got into a position where he were allowed to shoot. You know, had he been playing against a decent side with some defenders or some midfielders who could defend, then he wouldn't have even got into that position. They were in charge of the game. They were absolutely. They were comfortable on the ball. All we were doing was hoofing it long, missing out the midfield completely. They were completely in control. So it was a worry. And when that went in, you know, we thought straight away, well, we're not going to win. That's game over as far as we're concerned in terms of 3 points.
Yeah.
As it turned out to be. But we never laid a glove on them. Certainly prior to them scoring, prior to us scoring, so we never came close to laying a glove on them. But it was back to long ball, weren't it? We kind of mixed it up. What we did is we played it around the back a little bit and then kicked it long, rather than playing it through the midfield. We played it around the back and then kicked it long. I don't know. What can you say? We were just not in the game up until we scored. So yeah, it's just. I find it so depressing. This is so depressing. Week after week after week, we're having the same conversations, saying the same things. I'm amazed anybody even tuning in and listening, quite frankly, because you can sit waiting for this podcast to start, and you know exactly what the conversation is going to be. You know exactly what's going to be said, because every game is exactly the same: poor, tacticless, aimless. Planless, you know, every single game, with the exception of that Northampton game where we actually put the ball on the deck, played it through midfield, and played some football. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I genuinely, I don't. Other than, here we go again.
A couple of people are verifying that Nick Carrott's fans shouted at Evans over the dugout, and Evans argued back. Obviously, saying the same thing. So. There are your two different sources as our.
I am so glad we don't sit in a dugout.
I know.
So glad.
You'll be banned by now.
I would have definitely been banned by now. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
I want to throw in a little bit of positivity, and not really in regards to like, it's going to save our season or whatever. But I think we've got a real solid back two, and I think that as in Jules and a Dauphin, and I think that that's something that should be praised. I know that we talk a lot about how poor we are going forward, and that's true, and how bad we are on the ball, but I think them two are really quite capable League One defenders, and I think we've set up pretty well there. And if we can just get a better spine towards it, I mean, who knows if we can get back to basics when it comes to that. But I think we missed Teehee a lot more than people realise, because as soon as he went out of the squad, the results have dropped. And I'm not saying that people tend to dislike him because he doesn't do much in games, but I think it's the fact that you don't notice him much in games that gives him that sort of presence in midfield. He's got the legs over Kelly. He's got the ability to play it forward and be comfortable on the ball. But I think the two centre halves, I think if we can build from them too, then we might be able to stay up. I think
the problem is Hacks is out of contract in the summer, and what we should be doing, because he's not going to sign no contract. There's no way in a million years Hacks is going to sign a contract. We should actually be looking to sell him in January to get some cash for him. That's the problem.
Yeah,
I mean, we won't do that because you know how the football clubs run. They'll go for a free in the summer. But you're right. They were brilliant yesterday. I completely agree. But Hacks might not be here in 30 days' time.
I tried, guys. I tried.
Yeah. Simon, some of the thoughts and comments. He's only jumping on for a few minutes to wish everybody a happy new year. And thanks to all for giving us one thing Miller's related to look forward to. Thank you very much, Simon. And Nick also wants to credit the two centre-backs as well, kept us in it. And Jamie Noble in the comments says, no open training season, no team photo, no Christmas supporters dinner. The club is screaming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? I'm sure that those sorts of little things which are important, those sorts of things are the tip of the iceberg in terms of the absolute mess that it appears to be at the moment. It just seems to be a complete mess. So
yeah, it needs proper gutting from top to bottom, doesn't it? But where do you start?
Yeah. I don't know. Let's move on to our goal, Tom. Allegedly 10,000 people thought the goal was offside in the first half. It turns out it wasn't offside, to the shock of literally everybody in the stadium. It turns out the linesman, although he made some very, very dodgy decisions in the first half, that's a great decision from Lionel, as it turns out.
And I think that's the key. As it turns out, I think he was probably unsure. I don't think I think he took a massive 50-50 gamble, and luckily I think it paid off, because there is no way in hell that a human eye should be able to figure that out. And that's what VAR is for. Look, if maybe he did spot it and we're giving him less credit than it's worth, but if he has seen that, that's a huge decision. And honestly, if he would have gone the other way and said offside, I don't think anyone would have complained. I think it would have been that sort of benefit, give him the benefit of the doubt because it's so tight and stuff. But, if he's got it right, he's got it right. But the goal itself is really poor. It's just, it's a ball in that's fine from Powell. It's a lazy volley from Kelly, because how often do those go in?
Yeah.
And it's lazy from two of the players behind a Dauphin. I don't know who they are, but not
Nonde and probably Clark Harris.
Yeah. And in itself, a Dauphin for just sort of waltzing back. So it's, we scored great, 1-1 fair, but it's not a goal that gives. I think I didn't cheer it number one because I didn't know it went in, and I didn't know it counted. until it was probably too late. And number two, it didn't feel deserved. It didn't feel like they wanted to celebrate it. It felt like a really crap goal. That, I mean, was probably our best attack of the game, which just summed it up absolutely quintessentially yesterday. But I mean, if that's the way that we score goals now, get ready for some more, I guess, because it was the only way we were going to score was from some sort of fluke, dodgy decision, mishit, big deflection, anything. It was just going to be some sort of way that you can't tactically position your players. It was just a fluke, and that's how it looks like we're going to score goals going forward.
Yeah. We're going to rattle through some of these refereeing decisions. Mick's going to have his rant, don't worry. There's quite a few refereeing decisions to rattle through here, to be honest.
Yeah.
First of all, the non-penalty for Stockport in the first half, Mick.
Yeah.
We should have watched this back. I haven't watched it back. My first instinct was I would want that as a penalty. I thought it was a penalty. And what for me made it even more of a penalty was the decision he gave 3 seconds later on the edge of the box to us. Well, if that's a foul, that's a penalty. And I think we got away with one there.
Yeah, probably did. But I don't know. My immediate reaction was it wasn't. I thought he just threw himself on the deck. That was my reaction. 2 players running alongside each other, and he threw himself on the floor. So for me, it was one of the few things Doughty got right all afternoon, in my view. And because he didn't get many. So yeah, but I'd like to see it back. Obviously, he only gets one chance, and we were looking at it from 80 yards away, 75 yards away, but it didn't look like one to me. Yeah,
Tom, thoughts?
I think it's a penalty. I think it was. I think he's always. I think number one, he's always going to go down. I think number two, he's probably won the foul or bought the foul rather than.
So it's not a penalty, though.
But it still is because what I mean by foul is
you can't buy a foul. You get the foul, do you know?
So I haven't actually seen it back, but at the time, what I thought happened was he stepped across Hungbo, and Hungbo has then tripped him up by stepping in front of him, and that happens all the time, and it's always given. So therefore, the fact it wasn't given, I'm okay with. I don't think we got let off. I don't think we got, it wasn't a. It was just it was a decision that he had to make. But if it would have happened, I would have said, look, it's soft. He was looking for it the minute he got into the penalty box, but there is contact. He's tripped him up. If he gave a pen, it's like there's some sort of ref rules that you have to look for, and it's there was contact on him, and he's gone down in the box. So if it got given, it got given. Having said that, it was a big decision to make, and I think the refs, especially the Championship refs, want to make the decision with the biggest media coverage. So I think for them to not give it, it's probably what ref wanted to do anyway. So I think I agree with you, Mick, but I also think if it would have been given, I think personally I wouldn't have had many complaints because I think it's clumsy from Hungbo, or I think it was Hungbo. It might have been a Dauphin, but I think it was Hungbo.
Phil says no pen. Harry says could have given it. I wouldn't have complained if it was given, but would be soft. I think that's why I folded, to be honest. The same as Harry there. Neil, if she says it was in front of him, it was no penalty. Phil says looking for it. Fishman Sid says no pen, trying to con the ref. Steve Evans said at the end of the game, Johnson Clark Harris should have essentially had a Stonewall penalty. Now I saw the two incidents almost exactly the same. I'll be honest with you, I thought that Johnson Clark Harris was less of a penalty. Which was interesting. Well, it's not interesting. It's classic that he would bring it up. But again, Mick, should Clark Harris have had a penalty? I don't think it. Well, I think kind of the same thing.
I'm looking at it from the same distance, and now you've said what you've said, and Evans has said that it was. They definitely weren't. My immediate reaction was that it was a penalty. We had this conversation in the stadium, and I thought my immediate thought it was a penalty. But whatever, he didn't give it. And again, I won't complain about it because I weren't 100%. So,
and to be fair to the referee, we do not like defending Lee Doughty. But if it's in the 97th minute
Yeah.
you have got to be 100% certain that's a penalty.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's not. But I know
Yeah.
football shouldn't work like that, Tom, but it absolutely does. He had to be certain, and I'm fine with that not being a penalty, to be honest with you.
Yeah, agreed. I think it wasn't. I think he knew he made the wrong decision by not laying it off to Rafferty to cross, and sort of had to figure out a way to save the situation, and it was going over under very little contact. So again, I mean, look, if it was more soft than Barry's one, but there is still contact. So again, you could argue the contact. Therefore, if he gave it, you can't have much to complain about. But it was way too soft to be anywhere near a penalty, and he just flung himself to the floor. But it's another one of those situations, though. And Jules did it in the first half, where Jules is backing away from his own goal towards the touchline and just thrown himself over, and the ref gives it because the ref.
What happened there?
Yeah, I know
that decision there, and I don't know whether anybody else will remember this, but people may not recall it, but that was given by the linesman. So Jules is shielding the ball. The attacker comes up behind him, and Jules literally throws himself on the floor. It's not even. He doesn't even try and disguise the fact that this is just a complete and utter dive.
Yeah,
and he's about 2 yards away from the linesman, and the linesman could not wait to get his flag up and flag for this. There is no way on this earth that was a foul. Never, ever, ever was it a foul. And it's literally within a yard of the linesman, 2 yards at the absolute most. And this is championship refereeing. This is exactly what the problem is. And this is why you get they give these fouls all the time. And this is why people are throwing themselves on the floor constantly, because they get the fouls. It's absolutely dreadful.
I'm almost sure that's when he got booked as well. That player who we're going to talk about in a second, he got booked for complaining. I think.
Yes, he did, and they were absolutely right to complain. It was a shocking decision from linesman, and he couldn't have been closer. I genuinely don't know what the hell he was thinking.
But
anyway,
I agree.
But that's a huge issue, because Clark Harris then does probably get more contact on him, arguably, and therefore you can't have a foul be a foul and then not a foul just because.
But this is exactly the point. This is exactly the point, Tom. And this is what, and I would love bring the Howard Webb. I want. There's so many questions, and we talked about this yesterday. You know, and Mike obviously is not in the comments tonight. But what training do these people get? Just take that instance in isolation. What training has that linesman had to suggest to him that could possibly be a foul in any way on any planet? And yet he couldn't. He nearly broke his arm getting his flag up. Yeah, I genuinely don't understand it. But running on from that, the consequence of it is that players are just throwing themselves onto the deck, because 8-9 times out of 10 they will get a free kick when there's absolutely no foul being committed. And I don't understand why referees allow this. Why they don't allow it, they encourage it. They literally encourage it. It's bizarre. They're like, what training do they get? And whatever it is, it needs a good long look at it. Lee Doughty, we knew anyway pre-game what a very, very poor referee he is. He's absolutely awful. Perfectly suited for Championship. Fits right in with the level in there. And he was dreadful yesterday. Lost control of the game 2 or 3 times.
James, yes, you're right. Does this class as a baby rant for me? Yes, it does.
It is a baby rant, yeah. I've got coming.
We're not done yet with refereeing decisions, to be honest with you, but Noel Jordan said doesn't think it was a penalty for Clark Harris. Bailey Pavilion says he's going to say that Evans is clutching at straws. Every Rotherham fan should think it's a pen, according to the ever reliable Evans. Phil also agrees that the Clark Harris one wasn't a penalty. That brings on to the second thing that Evans mentioned, which was the red card, should have been the red card, he thinks, for the foul on Rafferty, for the same guy that was booked for complaining about the push on Zach Jules. This is a funny one, this one, Tom, because if he did make contact with Rafferty wouldn't have got up to complain about him not getting booked. So the way I see it is the referee's fallen for what Joe Rafferty did. But if the referee has fallen for it, if the referee thinks he's done what he thinks he's done, then he should have yellow carded him. But I don't think he did do it. So in the end, I think it's okay. I think.
So I'll be completely honest in that I didn't actually see what happened. The ball flew to the other end of the pitch, so I didn't have eyes on what happened. The only thing I saw was Rafferty on the floor and that 19 standing over him.
Okay.
In which case, I think as soon as the ref blows his whistle and gives a foul, considering how late the supposed contact is, I think as soon as he's given a foul, he's committed to the fact that there has been contact. Whether or not there was is a different thing. Whether or not he's been conned is completely different. The fact he's blown and given a foul shows that there was shows that in his mind there was contact. And given how late it was, the fact that I didn't see it because the ball had already gone over to the other side of the pitch shows that it's, at least a second to 2 seconds late. Arguably is a caution in itself, is a booking in itself, and if not a red for how late it is. So honestly, I think he was trying to just not make a second big decision of the game. He wasn't trying to. He was just trying to. I don't know what he was trying to do, but it was a red card. It was 2 yellows. I'm surprised he came out for the second half. That 19. It was Wotton. I'm surprised he came out for the second half because he was one little toe away from a second yellow. Because I don't know how he's not given it. Whether or not the dissent was a yellow card is a different matter. I think if he was truly screaming in the linesman's face, then yeah, give it. And someone's just said it in the comments then, reflecting on what yellow cards he gave earlier in the first half, how he's not given that as a second yellow is just because he wanted it was another big decision that he bottled, I think, personally. And I think it's ludicrous that he didn't give it. I understand what you say with the whole Rafferty's tried to con him and this, that, and the other. But I think as soon as you're a referee and you blow that whistle, you've admitted that there's a foul there. And I think even if you think after the fact, you've still given a foul. It's, you can't give a penalty. The player jumps straight back up who's just dived, started celebrating it and go, oh, actually, he's clearly not hurt, so he probably didn't get touched. I'm going to, award a corner. You don't see it. So I think it's irrelevant. I think as soon as he's given the foul, you've got to give the yellow card that probably accompanied it, and the fact that he didn't just bottle was another bottling decision. And I think it was just I think his second half was like bad, but his first half was one of the worst refereeing performances I think I've ever seen at any level. And I used to referee under 7s to under 12s, and I saw some bad refs in my time. So
yeah, fair enough. John John says he went through him. Nick Cannon says, because the referee was so stupid, was really happy with the cards earlier on, he put himself in a bad situation, and he knew then he didn't want to send him off.
Yeah.
Phil says, reflecting on his early cautions, should have been a red card. Nick, you agreeing with Steve Evans that it should have been a red card?
Bottled it. 100% bottled it, doubted, didn't it? 100%. And you could tell that he bottled it because there were a bit of argy-bargy, and he pulled the player to one side and he kept pulling him away until he got him on his own. And you knew at that point that that's thinking time for the referee. He's given himself thinking time because he's realised that he's already booked him. As Neil said, trigger happy. He lost the game for a good 15, 20 minutes on that run up to half time. He completely lost his head and he was just throwing the yellow cards out willy-nilly.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced there was contact between the two. I'm not convinced it was ever even a foul. Yeah. But if he's given a foul, it's a yellow card. No question about it, it's a yellow card. And he's bottled it. But again, I expect nothing less from Lee Doughty. Nothing less at all.
Fair enough. Dylan Phillips, Tom, there was a question mark whether he should have been sent off as well. This will cause debate. We haven't got time for a massive debate. But do you think Dylan Phillips got enough of the ball in the first half incident for it not to be a red card?
Again, it's another big decision, and I think he's gone. And I thought I thought you could give a foul, but I don't think it was a red card. And the way that Al described that is because I think the ball changed direction. So I've not watched. There's no highlights to have watched it back, so I've not watched it back. But what I saw at the time was the ball changed direction, which made me think that Phillips got some sort of contact on it. Therefore, I think he's tried to play the ball, and I don't think he's quite as last man as people may have thought at the time. Because I think looking back on it, Jules is in a pretty decent position to, if he does get round him, to cover it, because I think he'd get there first. So I think it's probably a yellow card and a foul. I just think it's a case of it's a rash decision to come out that far anyway. And he did it second half as well.
Which was worse.
It was second half, and it was way worse second half, where he came out to the edge of his box and didn't know whether to stay or come. Reeks of a keeper low on confidence, and eventually it got chipped over his head, and I think a Dolphin would have had it covered, but a better striker puts that in. And I just think it happened, I think 3 or 4 times where he rushed out of his net, and twice I think he just got away with it, and twice once he could have been sent off. Again, I think it was a yellow, because I think he made contact with the ball, but I think he still wiped out the player, basically. And the second one, he should have been chipped. So yeah, I think we've still got massive issues in the goalkeeping department. Personally,
we have. Noel Jones said it hit his chest. Phil saying hit his chest, no foul, just because they declared. If he did hit his chest, then the referee's made the right decision. I wasn't convinced at the time, but I stand to be corrected again. I haven't seen any highlights for that. Stand to be corrected. Mick, you thought it was the right decision at the time, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I thought it hit his chest, personally. But, the ball changed direction far too much for it not to have hit the keeper. And if it hit the keeper, it's no foul. End of.
Okay. Would you like to have a general ref rant, Mick? Because the problem is that everything we've just gone through there, we've kind of said that other than the red card, the referee probably got everything on balance about right. But we still think it was garbage. Yeah,
it was, because he's just he's league out it. He's a championship referee. He's massively inconsistent. One thing's a foul 1 minute, next minute it's not a foul. Shirt pulling, but we're going to absolutely clamp down on shirt pulling. There's no way we're going to allow that this season.
We're really bad yesterday.
Shirt clamp down.
Yeah,
never even bothered with it all game. So look. We've said all we need to say about him. His performance overall was dreadful. But we expect that from the championship referee.
We do. So something else Steve Evans said, and this was pointed out by Nick Cammett in the comments earlier. He said he'd like to make the point that Steve Evans said in the post-match interview, a good point against a top 4 side. Sorry, aren't we supposed to be challenging, Steve? And that is the thing, Tom, that if we were Crawley or Northampton or whatever else, anybody else who would expect it to be in the bottom kind of 7 or 8 at the start of the season, you would probably say, yeah, it's a good point against Stockport County, because they're a Stockport County a decent team, they've got some decent players. Steve Evans is still saying that we will be touching distance of the playoffs by the end of the month. That, for me, that makes it, you should be winning those games at home against anybody. You should be saying, and not only should you be winning those games, you should be at least having shots on target in the second half when there was 0. I just think he's inconsistent with what he says, and I think it's making him look a bit silly, to be honest with you, because they're a good team. They're good, but they're not amazing.
Well, yeah, they are compared to us. let's not hide that reality is that they are head and shoulders above us, player for player. They were absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
And I said it on the instant reaction yesterday, and I'll say it again: is that is a good point for let's double check our reality here, in that we are relegation threatened. We're not promotion chasing. We're not playoff chasing. We are relegationally threatened, and we've just drawn 1-1 against a team that's in the top 6, top 5, top 6.
Yeah.
That is a good point, and that's coming from fans who are disheartened, unenthused, absolutely despised at what is being played out in front of us, that we have come to the realization that our reality is now, if we can get a point against teams in the top half of the table, that's a good result. Steve Evans coming out and saying that, maybe, like you say, if we were crawling, we had our expectations like that, and Steve Evans didn't wash his head with, images of grandeur and championship playoffs and this, that, and the other. Let's be honest, it's a case that we need him, fans, players need to look at the abject reality in that we are relegation quality. We are relegation fodder. I don't think it's the right word, but we're in that relegation battle, and we need to pick up points against teams that you wouldn't really pick up points against. And we have to look at this like the championship season from the last couple of seasons. When we play a team in the top half, if we put in a dogged performance, which he said we did, if we put in a performance where we get a result, even if it's at home, let's not forget, then it's a good result. And him coming out and saying that has made our, abject, we didn't want to realize it, reality into an actual reality, because now the manager believes it. The manager now believes that we are in a relegation battle, because he wouldn't say that otherwise. So yeah, I think it's just time to absolutely give in to what we are, and that's in a relegation battle. I mean, we're looking down, not up, and we got to start winning games around us, or else we will be in some serious bother come April, May time.
Yeah, we are still 4 points off safety, ahead of safety. We were, had Crawley not thrown away a 3-goal lead, we would be 2 points off the relegation zone. Exactly. So we gathered a bit of luck there. Mate, you're 22 games in. You are where you are after 20. The only thing we haven't played, I think, is Bolton. Is the only thing we haven't played so far. Lincoln on New Year's Day is the second meeting of teams. You are where you are. You deserve to be where you are at the moment. So that makes the point a good point. But Steve Evans is never going to admit that we're in a relegation fight. He's never going to admit that, because if he admits that we are in a relegation fight, he will be sacked. Well, he should be sacked, because that's not where we should be. And he can't. For his job's sake, he can't. I don't think he can admit that. But we are in a relegation fight at the moment, halfway through the season.
He could just spend the rest of the season gaslighting us, can't he? Telling us are we going to end up at top of league, or we're going to get promoted, or whatever, while we can all sit here saying exactly where we are in league, whatever. It makes a difference. Makes a difference. I don't tend to listen to anything that he says, quite frankly, because the content of it is particularly. I mean, we obviously spoke to him a week or so ago, and the content of what he said was far more. Well, there were far more content to it than anything else I've heard from him in the past. And there were some admissions that they got it wrong, but there's no change. Nothing changes as a result of that. So it's clear that they have the conversations between themselves, I guess, that they're getting it wrong. But he's not going to tell us anything different. No, you're right. It's not. He's going to tell us that we're pushing, and there's still plenty of time left, and so on and so forth. Yeah, there is. There is, and he could turn it around. It is possible. It is possible. I don't think it's probable in any way, shape, or form, but it is possible. So, we've got to pull with this. We've got no choice. As supporters, we have no choice. It is not going to change as far as I can see. Tony Stewart has definitely not got the slightest interest in getting rid of Steve Evans. Not the slightest interest. Because for two reasons. One, because he likes him and his mate. He is his mate. And also, he knows that nobody else is going to come in here. Nobody else is going to take this job. So, his appetite for changing manager is I would guess is zero. That's without taking into account the fact that if he wanted to do it, he'd have to admit that he made a mistake. That is not in. That doesn't appear to me, anyway, at least, to be in Tony Stewart's armoury, that kind of behaviour. So we're just going to have to put up with. whatever he tells us, you take it with a massive pinch of salt that it deserves. We can all see where we are, and we can all see what's going to happen. But you know,
yeah. And we'll kind of repeat what we said on the last episode, Tom, is that those people around the relegation zone are showing that some of them are showing a bit of life. Crawley were unlucky to not pick up 3 points. You know, Shrewsbury have picked up quite significantly under Gareth Ainsworth. There's still a little bit adrift, but they've picked up significantly under Gareth Ainsworth. Cambridge have shown that they can pick up some results. Northampton still remains to be seen if they're going to have a big turn of perform under Kevin Nolan, but new manager bounce you'd expect kicking at some point. There's all justifications why all those teams will pick up. Whereas we're sitting here saying we've got Lincoln, we've got Bolton, Huddersfield, and all these other teams coming up. We're sitting there going, well, where's the next win coming from? I might draw some of these games. Where's the next 3 points coming from in these running games? And we could easily find ourselves in the relegation zone in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, completely, and that's why I say we got to look down rather than up, and it's a case of, you know, you've got to pick up points where you can, which is why the Stockport point is even bigger than we might even think about it now. It might be bigger in 3 or 4 weeks when, you know, we've not picked up any other points. And you're right. I mean, you look at those teams that you mentioned, all top half teams, and you look at them and you think, I can't see us winning against those in this sort of form with this sort of squad, these little tactics. But then you look around at the teams around us: Bristol Rovers, Peterborough, and it's North, you know, Shrewsbury. You know, they're all before the season started. You would have thought, you know, we might win that game 4-0, 5-0. We might absolutely thrash these. Now you're looking at that game and you're going, I don't think we'll score. I don't think they'll score, but I definitely know we won't. And you're looking at the games around us. It's not even looking at the top half anymore and thinking, well, these playoff teams that you should be beating if you want playoffs or promotion. You're looking at the teams that are relegation threatened, and they just, like you said, then they look like they've got more to fight for, more to win. They've got more reason to believe. All of them have. Oh, I don't want to be general here. At least half of them have sacked their manager this season and had an upturn of form. And the others that haven't are still on that downward spiral. I mean, I can't believe Peterborough are down where they are.
Yeah.
I think they've actually won more games than we have, but they've just not drawn at all, I think. I'm just gobsmacked at how we find ourselves in a position of I agree. This feels like it did this time last year, and we were playing teams that we knew were miles better than us last year, and we still had that little bit of hope that we would be the underdog, and you know, they'd fight a bit more because nobody expected them to win, so it gives you that little bit of fire. Now I feel the same as I did 12 months ago, but with even less optimism, because these players shouldn't be as bad as they are, but they are, and we just have to admit that they are. And the reality is that they're not going to change overnight, and they're not going to. One game isn't going to change it. You know, I honest to God thought that Northampton was a benchmark for how we should play, and maybe that's just goes to show how bad they were at the time, because there's been absolutely no momentum taken from that. So. Yeah, in 2-3 weeks' time, we could be sitting 3 games on the bounce, won, and thinking, "Oh, what was all our worries about?" Or 3 games on the trot, lost, and honestly, in relegation form, with no idea of how to get out of it, and it's a really worrying time.
Yes, it is. Nick Carrot says, question, if we lose the next 2 games, which we most certainly will, surely that will be that. Tony can't allow that to continue. Harry says he thinks as soon as dropping the relegation zone, he will sack him. Don't know, Nick. There's no point. Is there any point predicting what Tony Stewart's going to do? Because we all sat here on this podcast in July when I was doing pre-season predictions, saying that we don't think Tony Stewart will sack Steve Evans unless we're in a relegation scrap come Christmas time. Well, we're in a relegation scrap post-Christmas time. The whole world outside us kind of thinks, probably, I think, so Nick put some in the comments earlier, but the outside, everybody else thinks it's probably lucky still being a job, Steve Evans. I'm sure he's doing the best they can. There's no doubt about that. but things are not working. And I think literally all of the other 23 clubs, if they were in our circumstances where we come from, and some are expenditure on wages, and there's no transfer fee, but expenditure on wages and alleged signing-on fees, I think all 23 clubs would have pulled the trigger.
Yeah, and I'm going to nail my colours to mass, because when I nail my colours to mass, usually I end up being wrong. So I'm going to try and tempt fate here. He'll not sack him.
No.
Even if we go down, I think if we go down, actually get relegated, he may sack him then. But I think even if we need 3 points and 4 goals swing on the last game of the season, he'll still be in the job. I think that's my view. I just don't think. I think he will accept League Two football next year without Steve Evans, but we'll keep him on until that point. That's my take on it, because I just don't think that Tony Stewart's willing to stick his hand up and admit that he's made a mistake, because he has made a mistake. He should never have appointed him in the first place. We said this at the time, or I said this at the time. Lots of people have. And I know some people still support him, and there are some people still believe that he'll turn it around. I get that. And God, I hope they're right. I hope that they're right and I'm wrong. I genuinely do. But nothing has improved since day one of the season. And I said that on the post-match, and I stand by that. There has been zero improvement, nothing to change from that Exeter game to the game yesterday against Stockport. Nothing has changed.
Yeah. Having said that, this could all come down to Steve Evans. Steve Evans said on our podcast that there were times this season when he sat in the kitchen and kind of thought to himself, is he the right man to take this club forward? That question, I imagine, is, if he thought that again, I don't know, let's say post Barnsley, I suspect he's probably having those thoughts in his own head now. This is not a man who's used to failure. He's had pretty good success wherever he's been. Other than Peterborough, I think he's had really good success wherever he's been. This is odd and alien to Steve Evans, but there's not a single person that can say it's working. So, how can he deal with his pride? How does in such a man who's so positive about himself and believes in himself so much, clearly, how does he manage that? How does he deal with his emotions towards it? And forget about
this is the thing with personalities like Steve Evans, and I'm not discussing him specifically here, just the personality that he sort of, his public personality, and these kinds of people are either have huge egos or are compensating for not having any ego at all.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. And the question is whether Steve Evans is which camp does he fall into? Is he a man with a massive ego, or is he a man who lacks self-confidence and compensates for that by going in the opposite direction? Or who knows? Only he knows that. And that may influence any decision that he makes. But I don't think he'll walk away. I don't think he'll walk away because he strikes me as being a man that will not admit to making a mistake.
Or admit defeat.
Well, he won't admit making a mistake. If he admitted making a mistake, we'd have a different style of football on game day 22 than we did on game day 1, but we haven't.
Okay.
We've got the same. Still got the same. So, neither him nor Rayner will stick their hand up and say, we've got this wrong. Quite clearly won't. No. They might tinker around the edges to try and keep a few people happy, but ultimately the same thing remains. So he's staying. He is staying. I'm sure of that personally.
Yeah, I basically agree. I would be surprised.
I do as well.
Nick Carrot says, I'll be honest, Mick, I was hoping Evans was going to prove you wrong, Sally. No
So would I.
No
offense, Tekken. So would I.
Yeah. Mike Miller says a lot needs changing at the club behind the scenes on the pitch. Yeah. Very quickly, mate, because we've got to talk about Lincoln. Jonathan Marshall says, hi, all. I would interested to know your thoughts on Cam Humphreys and Conor Bramall being left out of the squad doing training exercise out on the pitch before the kick-off. For me, that was a good buy.
Yep.
Mick, do you have a quick rant? Just keep it 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
I put one caveat on it, and that is that we don't know whether something else has gone off behind the scenes as a result of, and those two players are not weren't on the bench on Saturday. But I said this to you in the car on the way down, and I think I said it on the post match as well. There isn't a single dimension in which a partially injured Jamie McCart makes the bench ahead of a fully fit Cam Humphreys. There is no way on this earth that is a normal, rational, thought-out decision in any way. That is just spite. That's all it is. The manager and his team don't like Cam Humphreys, and therefore they've binned him off. That's the only thing I can think of. Because even a fully fit Jamie McCart should not be making the bench ahead. He shouldn't be making the team ahead of Cam Humphreys. He certainly shouldn't be making the bench. Cam Humphreys shouldn't be on the bench. I know he's lacked form, and I know he's been out of touch and everything else, but he is streets ahead of Jamie McCart when he's fit, and Jamie McCart's injured, and yet he still makes the bench. That is arguably, for me, sums up Steve Evans and Paul Rayner and their personalities and the way that they treat players. Cam Humphreys has been out of touch. I'll be the first one to admit that. The question is why. And my argument would be, and this is one of the things I wanted to chat to him about when we spoke to him, was Cam Humphreys. He's a shell of the player that he was, and those two people have contributed to that, in my opinion. And the decision that was made on Saturday to put McCart on the bench ahead of him just absolutely confirms that for me. It's absolutely outrageous. Genuinely, it's outrageous that a player of that ability and that talent has had his confidence. For me, I'm not saying this is right, but this is how it looks to me. Has had his confidence booted out of him, screamed out of him, shouted out of him, whatever it is that these two think that they're putting into players in training, if indeed they actually do any training. It's appalling, genuinely appalling. And for me, probably one of the worst decisions he's made while he's been at the club. Shocking.
I also put in for a Conor Bramall moment there as well. Reece James was blowing out of his backside in the last 20 minutes of that game yesterday. He literally couldn't get back to defend.
Yeah.
And you've got fastest guy in the league not on the bench. Reece James has played so many minutes. He's played too many minutes for Reece James. Especially over this Christmas period, you've got to have Conor Bramall available. You've got to. Look, it wouldn't have made a difference in terms of winning the game, but there was a moment in that second half where Reece James was so out of position because he literally couldn't get back that we almost conceded a goal. Just stop me. Defend Conor Bramall a little bit as well, mate. It's not all about Cam Humphreys.
No, it's not. It's not. And I get what Phil said there in the comments about Humphreys not doing himself any favours in terms of his performances. But I question whether it's about his attitude. I genuinely do, because he doesn't strike me as he is not a player that struts about with a bad attitude, and that's just not the kind of personality that comes across. But anyway, that's by the by. Conor Bramall and Reece James. Conor Bramall gets criticised for his defensive work. I tell you what, Reece James into a million miles in front of him. Not by any stretch. I think he's bang average, and I've not been impressed with him at all. He gets beaten so many times. Yeah, he has got other qualities, and he is probably a better defender than Conor Bramall. But again, you know, if he's struggling for fitness and he's getting beaten, players are getting in behind him. You know, at least have some backup on bench. with a bit of pace. Nah, not good enough.
Alex McDonald. So put Alex McDonald on bench instead.
Yeah.
Tom, have you got anything to add on the Bramwell Humphries situation before we talk about Lincoln?
I agree. I agree with people. You know, I don't think Humphries is a League One defender, and he's definitely not been the same type of defender since his injury. But the way that they've both been treated has been pretty unprofessional, to use his own word against him. I think it gets really sour when managers call out players, especially as early on as Evans did, without really knowing them. At least, I mean, Matt Taylor did it once or twice.
He never called them individually, though. It was a group thing for Matt Taylor.
Yeah, and I just think as soon as that happens, I've seen it happen as an outsider before, and it's just a case of it just stinks, really. It just stinks right through to its core. And honestly, for me, I think making them warm up before the game and signing, you know, you might look at it as a goodbye thing. I thought it was a martyr thing. I thought it's if you don't play for me, this is what you'll end up being to the fans, to the players. I think it's just a case of power. I think it was a power move from Evans. This is what I'll make you do, and I can make you do it. So you better play for me and you better work hard, or else this will happen. That's what I saw it as personally. In hindsight, yeah, could have been a a goodbye thing, but it didn't look like they wanted to. I don't think Stars wanted to time him. I don't think they had to do it. And
Bramwell did go around the ground though, didn't it? Around that quarter and stand to the fans.
And there was videos of Humphrey signing whatever it was around the stadium as well. So yeah, in hindsight, it probably was a goodbye thing. But when I first saw it just, with everything that's gone on previous, to me, it felt like more of a, this is what happens if you don't play for me. This is the power I have, and this is what I'll do. And yeah, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
Embarrassing that we've got a manager that can't see a player of that quality. Just embarrassing. I mean, honestly, genuinely, it is just embarrassing.
Yes, fair. 2024 has now ended footballing wise. We've got another day left to get through, but I'll put some more stats up tomorrow. I'll do a bit more digging. But 42 games played, 7 victories, which is, I think we worked out yesterday, 17% win ratio in a calendar year. Out of a possible 123 points, we have gathered 31. That is the season. That is the 12 months that we have had to endure. So if you think, anyway, highlights of the year.
We actually did.
We've got to do it. Come on. Give us some positivity. Before we talk about Lincoln, positivity, mate. What was your highlight of the footballing calendar? Rotherham-wise.
Me or Tom?
Mick first.
Oh, me. The highlight of my footballing calendar was watching Victor's granddad in the backyard of the Cutlers with a great big green flare in his hand. That was footballing beauty for me. And that's where my season started and ended.
Fair enough. Mine was the last 3 or 4 minutes of that Cardiff game. Well, last 20 minutes actually, with the entire stadium singing Victor's name, and then when Victor came on, the whole thing it was, and then Victor staying about an hour and a half behind after the game to sign everybody, to talk to everybody, to get gifts from everybody as well. Football's terrible at saying goodbye to good players. Absolutely terrible. We didn't get one for Frex. I suppose we got one for Woody a little bit. Football is terrible at saying goodbye, but that was one of the greatest goodbyes we've ever had for a Rotherham player. I loved it. I loved how it went. It was just brilliant. So that's my one of my favourite moments of a long time, to be honest with you. I loved that. Other than that, it's been pure garbage, but that was a great moment for me.
Yeah, that's not sugarcoat. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this year's been pretty poor. 2023 was also bad. People might slate me for saying this, but my favourite moment was probably when we got announced to be going down, because I think a weird 2-year wait lifted, and it was just like, look, we can, there was obviously the Cardiff game. There was a couple of the games towards the end of the season when we had nothing to play for that were actually all right. I remember I went Bristol City away, which was, quite fun. it was more party atmosphere, and it was more away days where I had fun. I enjoyed it. First time in 2 years that I'd actually enjoyed going to a game, and I thought that was what we had in store in League One. The players that we signed, that how many we signed, how good they looked when we signed them. It was just full of optimism, and even now looking back, I don't regret the optimism I had. I think everyone was just fed up after 2 years of pure dirt and awful football, that a new sort of optimism had come over the club, and it for me, it wasn't even Evans. It was the chance to beat teams in League One, or beat teams in general again, and have away days and home games where the club felt together again. And that hasn't transpired at all. So yeah, I'd say that my favorite moment was the moment I thought it would all change. And lo and behold, it didn't. So it was a pretty bittersweet favorite memory.
Yeah. It's terrible. As Harry says, at the time, Evans returning. Now he wants him gone. How times have changed. Nick Carrot says it was the Ritterwood testimonial, which was a good day out. It was Michael Miller saying should have let Victor take the penalty against Cardiff as well. 100%. He's even captain for Stoke, by the way, the other day. He's taken like 6 months and he's already captain.
Yeah. And he got man of the match.
I would say it's mad, but it's not mad, is it? It's Victor. Right, it's Lincoln City boxing, not New Year's Day, sorry. Benjamin Speed is the referee. As you watch, he refereed the Burton game at the start of the season, the 2-2 draw. Can't really remember anything from that game, to be honest, which is good news. Something that's worth mentioning and talk about, Mick, and this going into the Lincoln, I'm going to be quick because we've got an hour and 11 minutes, but Malik Wilkes has really, really struggled over the last post-Northampton game, to be honest with you. Post-Northampton, Malik Wilkes was really, really struggling. And he had an absolutely rotten against Stockport. He really, really was right. He wasn't on his own, but he's not changing the game. The thing with Malik Wilkes is you can take 8 to 9 minutes of being garbage, but he generally has that moment of spark. And that moment of spark just seems to have gone out in him a little bit. He's become really predictable to watch. The guy sits next to him, basically, as soon as the ball comes to Malik Wilkes, he just says what's going to happen. It happens. He loses the ball. He's so predictable at the minute to watch Malik Wilkes, and there's got to be a problem that needs fixing, and quick, because he's a match winner, and that's why we're not winning matches, I suppose. But
we'll keep going with him. We'll keep going with him, even though he's out of touch, out of form, and not performing particularly well. Because 1 minute he might turn up. So we'll keep playing with 10 men until he actually turns up. I don't know. He's out of touch. He does this though, and that's why he's not a Premier League player or a top end Championship player. Because he'll have 2 or 3 games where he's completely anonymous, and then he'll do something really good, and then he'll disappear again for a bit. So we've had 2 or 3 bad games of him. Maybe this next one will be one where he shines. We'll have to see, but he'll certainly play.
Yeah, we could name a few more players that are question mark whether they should start. Can Clark Harris play all these minutes over Christmas period? Nombe's looked a little bit off it, a little bit injured. Andre Green was very, very quiet. Hungbo was poor, but I think he was still better than Malik Wilkes. So I would start.
Hungbo touched ball about 3 times.
Yeah,
we were playing all the way down the left. Down the right. We played down the right, completely ignoring the left-hand side and Hungbo. So we swapped Hungbo and Wilkes over, and then we went and played down the other side. Hungbo never touched the ball. I think he touched it 3 or 4 times in that first half, and then got substituted.
Yeah, no tactic. And you knew he was going to start as well. Good 10 minutes off the bench, made an impact. He's going to start. And it's that inconsistency and that not knowing what's going to happen. They don't train it. They don't do it in a week. They don't train that way. They don't have players playing position. Sorry, we're going way over here, but it's just another thing to rant about. It's just player choice and lack of tactical nuance. And yeah, it's just look. Jack Holmes had a really lovely 10 minutes when he came on. 15 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if he started against Lincoln, because he's trained hard and he's played well, and that's the only reason he has to play him. And then he'll come on, won't do anything because he's a great impact player, but not necessarily a starter. They won't give him the ball. He'll come off after 60 minutes, and you won't see him again for 3 months.
He's not trained hard. None of them are trained hard. There is no way. You cannot possibly tell me right? Having watched 22 games this season, you cannot tell me that at any point any of those players have trained hard.
No,
Because that hasn't happened.
Sam Nonway must have.
Listen, I'm telling you now what happens, right? They turn up at Roundwood at 10 o'clock or whatever, 11 o'clock after they're all of their lie-in. They walk into Roundwood, get changed, somebody lobs them a ball, says, go and have a kick about for an hour, lads. Come in and have your dinner and bugger off home. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've no idea. I just made that up.
Evans, if you want to invite Mick to training so you can show him what they do, he's got some free time coming up.
Yeah. In fact, don't invite me. Just let me in. I'll come when I decide.
Okay. I'm not sure how it works. That's how it works.
Well, no.
They can't plan it.
There is no way that they don't train anything. They might do a bit of fitness stuff, but they certainly don't do any tactics or any form of football training.
Anyway, predictions for Lincoln City. Nobody predicted a draw against Stockport, so for about 3 weeks in a row, the prediction table remains exactly the same. It's gone quite stagnant, the prediction table. So let's see how it works this time. Ben has gone for a victory. I don't know why, but Ben has gone for a 2-0 victory. Don't get it. He was as negative as anybody yesterday, but no, he's gone for a 2-0 victory. Danny has gone for 1-0 to Lincoln. Joy has gone 2-1 for Rotherham. Kev has obviously gone for 3-0 to Rotherham. And Mick, what are you doing?
I'm in 1-0 Lincoln.
Okay. Fair enough. Tom.
We're away, aren't we? 2-0.
Okay. Positive as always, everybody.
That's only the second time I've predicted a loss, by the way. Just saying.
Fair enough. This is why nobody's doing well in the league table.
Yeah.
Predictions table.
I know.
Chris Fishman says 1-1, as does Noel Jordan. Steve Gunner says 3-0. YouTube says 2-1 to us, as does Harry. Travelling Brian says 2-0 to Lincoln, as does Chris Tether. Kiwi says 1-1. Paul Road says 1-0 to us. Lincoln 2-0 says Steve. Martin Holland says 2-2. We have continued the trend of scoring a goal and not losing. So that has continued. Yeah. I don't know what it means. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I haven't worked it out. But it's a thing that is happening. So let's see what happens. It is the halfway point in the season for us on New Year's Day. That's the 23rd game of the season. Will we be a step closer to being in touching distance of the playoffs, or will we be a step closer to that drop zone? I know where my money's going, and I know for a fact that Lincoln will be well up for some revenge and all. They will be well up for this game, Lincoln. After how they felt like they were kind of treated in the first game, they will be well up for this game.
Yeah.
So,
and they're at home, and we never.
And they're at home. And we're rubbish away from home. So thank you all for being with us today and for the year. 2024 has been probably one of the worst years in Rotherham United's history in terms of results-wise. I'd be amazed if we've had a worse year than this. But thank you all for sticking with us. And because of, for some reason, you all seem to keep watching, even though we're miserable every week. So we do appreciate everybody's turned up. The instant reaction yesterday got some great numbers again, as always. Shows the difference between Wrexham and Stockport, for example. We were pretty similar, and Stockport fans took it with quite a good grace. Some of the negative ones, well, whatever. That's just is what it is. But yes, we will be back on Thursday, which will be the 2nd of January, where we will be reviewing the first game of the year, away at Lincoln, and then we have a Yorkshire derby on Saturday against Huddersfield Town. There hasn't been any scouting reports because I've just not had time to fit in. So after the Huddersfield game, we'll return with scouting reports to find out about Ian Everts Bolton the week after. If somebody's still there.
Best team in league.
We're going to find out.
To play.
Going to find out all about Bolton, aren't we? I don't think Ian Everett will come on, but we'll find out from somebody else. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Mick, for being with us again.
It's been cathartic. I've got a bit out of my system.
Oh yeah, this has riled me up more, if anything. Honestly, yeah. we could have had a 3-hour podcast tonight.
Yeah, we could have gone on for another 40 minutes. Absolutely, at least another hour.
Easily.
But anyway, thank you, Tom, and I hope you have a lovely New Year. Same to you, Mick.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
See you next time. Happy New Year to everybody. We will see you on the other side. And as always, up the Millers.
Happy New
Millers.
Year.
I think I always made the comment that once a Miller, always a Miller.
Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! Good heavens, he's done it again! Another promotion for the big man.
I've got 12 bottles of champagne in my office and we're going to drink them all night.
Do me a favor, drop me off